May the words that I speak and the thoughts and wonderings of all of our hearts draw us closer to God, who is our rock and our Redeemer. This week is Doubting Thomas Week, and it is one of my favorites because this is the week where, more than any other, we acknowledge that it's okay to have questions. It's okay to have doubts. Being a Christian does not mean unthinking, unquestioning following of whatever somebody else tells you you're supposed to believe. Being a Christian is following Christ with our whole hearts and believing in the way of Christ in our souls. It's not about agreeing with a set of statements. And it's not about knowing things for sure. It's about believing. And what is most important for us to believe in is in resurrection life. But that doesn't mean we all have to agree or believe the same things about what happened on that first Easter. We're allowed to have doubts and wonderings. And when it comes to what did or did not happen in an empty tomb 2,000 years ago, as much as that story is at the heart of what it means to be a Christian, it's also so much more than that. We don't say Christ was risen. We say Christ is risen, because resurrection is ongoing. And in our stories, Jesus appears in some of the stories, first to some women, first to Simon Peter, to the women, and then to Simon Peter, to Mary Magdalene, then to other disciples, to disciples on the road to Emmaus, to Thomas. In Paul's writings, Jesus appears to Paul, but much later as to one untimely born, as he says. There are a lot of stories of the resurrection in the Bible, and there are many more stories of resurrection in the church. But the most important stories of resurrection for us are our stories of resurrection. And it's a strange thing to talk about resurrection right now, because in so many ways it feels like we are in the tomb. We are literally held up in our homes, quiet, waiting. And what is to come is not here yet. But the power of resurrection, the story of resurrection, is already being told in our culture. I have noticed over the past few weeks a whole lot of different choirs popping up, these virtual choirs. You can find them on your tablets, and they are fantastic to listen to. Two of them that I've included with the fuller service notes, and if you're listening to my services or my sermons on YouTube and you don't have access to the full services and we're not emailing them to you, but you'd like them, then just send me a message over through YouTube, leave a comment, anything like that, and I'll make sure that you can get the rest of the service if you want. A lot of it is a collection of YouTube links to other bits and pieces that tie together with the theme. But one of the things that I've been hearing are these songs of resurrection that are not specifically Christian songs, but they have this theme of rising up. The two songs, Rise Up and We Rise Again, I've included both of them in the expanded notes for this service because they are so relevant to what's happening. In both cases, being recorded by these isolation choirs where everyone records on their own and then somebody does their magic with a computer somewhere and it all comes together and it sounds like a choir. In one case, it's being sung by doctors, saying, we will be resurrected. We will rise up again after this. And there are a lot of versions of both of these songs. Because they're so powerful, lots of choirs are doing them. One that I chose not to include because I thought it might be a bit much for some people actually has some quite graphic medical things going on in it, in terms of patients who are very, very sick and being treated, while saying, we will rise up. We will overcome this. Of course, not every individual will survive the pandemic. We watch the numbers coming in. We know that that's true. But we, as a people, as a community, as humanity itself, will rise up. You see, it's one of the central beliefs of Christianity, is that life is stronger than death. That love is stronger than death. So we do best when we don't get too stuck in the weeds about what happened on that first Easter. Because we could put up tests and say, if you're really a Christian, you believe that this is what happened on that first Easter. You believe that Jesus could walk through walls and eat fish, as the Gospels tell us. And the flip side of that ends up being, if you can't get your head around that, if you think those stories are metaphorical, if you think that the truth of those stories is found in some place other than the literal telling of what you would see if you had a video camera and a time machine, that's okay. Because being a Christian is about living the resurrection life right now. It's about believing that we will rise again. We will rise up. Our life, the life force of the universe, is stronger than death. All you need to do is find a barren beach or a rocky hill or a little bit at the edge of the desert or some sidewalk, and notice how a great slab of rock or a big pile of sand is disrupted by a little weed. Look at that. Look in the cracks. Next time you're out doing your weekly trip to the grocery store, take a look in the cracks where you see that kind of annoying way that plants, living things, get into the cracks in the pavement and break it apart. Because life, even the life of a tiny little plant, is stronger than death. And life will win. Love will win. Resurrection is the final answer. And God is with us. Thanks be to God. Amen.